The screen fades in from black. A city sleeps in total silence, wrapped in the deep blue of pre-dawn darkness. Nothing moves, nothing stirs. An alarm clock on a worn nightstand reads 4:47 in the morning. In a modest apartment, simple furniture, dim walls, and a quiet life, an older man opens his eyes. No hesitation, no complaint, just quiet determination rising with him from the sheets. He moves through his morning with calm discipline. Water runs over his face at the sink. He buttons his uniform slowly, deliberately. A simple breakfast is prepared in a small kitchen. Steam rises from a cup. The room is humble, but there is dignity in every movement. This is not a man defeated by his circumstances. This is a man who has chosen his life, every single quiet morning of it. He steps outside and the world holds its breath. The streets are empty, cold, and completely still. Aerial shots drift slowly over the sleeping city, rooftops fading into the dark morning horizon. Below, a single figure moves beneath flickering streetlights, his breath rising in soft clouds against the frozen air. Slow motion captures every footstep on the wet pavement, steady and unhurried, like a man who has never once been in a rush to prove himself. In these quiet hours, the city belongs entirely to him. And then, softly, a voice begins. What do you actually know about wealth? Not the appearance of it, not the performance of it, but the real thing. Who truly holds it? Because the answer might be walking right past you every single morning, and you would never even notice. He arrives before the city wakes. The corporate tower rises above him, steel and glass, stretching toward a sky still dark with night. He badges in through a side entrance, and the security guard gives a familiar nod. No words needed. Inside, the building is vast and cathedral quiet, every surface gleaming under cold fluorescent light. He picks up his mop and begins. Marble floors stretch endlessly before him. Glass walls reflect his solitary figure moving through corridors built for power. Wide camera angles swallow him whole. One small man inside a monument to corporate ambition. He empties bins filled with the remnants of million-dollar decisions. He wipes away the fingerprints of executives who never learned his name. The contrast is not accidental. It is everything, because what those walls cannot reflect is what this man is quietly building. As the building fills with energy, something quietly profound begins to unfold. Luxury cars glide into the parking structure. Executives move through the lobby with polished confidence, designer suits and briefcases that cost more than a month of the janitor's wages. The world notices them instantly. Nobody notices him. He continues mopping, wiping, working, steady and unhurried, existing in the background like furniture. But for just a moment he pauses. His eyes follow a group of executives crossing the lobby. There is no envy in his gaze, no bitterness, only something deeper, a quiet knowing. Then he returns to his work without a word. Society has always had a very specific image of success. It arrives loudly, dressed expensively, and commands attention. But what if the man everyone walks past without a second glance understands something about wealth that none of them ever will? Decades melt away as the screen softens into warm golden tones. A younger version of our janitor sits at a modest kitchen table beneath a single hanging light. In his hands, a paycheck, his very first. Most young men his age would have felt that familiar pull toward freedom, toward spending, but not him. Slowly, deliberately, he reaches for a row of plain envelopes, one marked rent, one marked food, one marked savings. Each dollar placed with quiet intention, not restriction. Days later, he walks into a local bank and opens his very first savings account with a modest deposit. No fanfare, no applause. Just a young man making a silent agreement with his future self. This was not deprivation, this was discipline. And discipline chosen early and chosen consistently, carries a power that desire never could. As the years move forward, the world around the young janitor begins to shift. Friends pull into driveways with brand new cars, post vacation photos from tropical beaches, and show up to gatherings wearing designer everything. The energy at social events is loud, celebratory, and free spending. Everyone seems to be living at full volume. The janitor is there too. He laughs, he connects, he genuinely enjoys these moments, but something inside him stays anchored. While others upgrade their lives with every raise, he quietly upgrades his future. The camera lingers on small details. His worn shoes beside polished sneakers, his simple meal beside extravagant plates. There is no shame in his eyes, only clarity. Lifestyle inflation surrounds him like a current, but he refuses to be swept away. He has already chosen his direction. What if the most powerful force in finance looked nothing like money at first? Picture a single seed dropped into dark soil. Nothing happens. Days pass, then weeks, then something extraordinary begins. This is exactly how the janitor thought about his money. He started small, painfully small. A few dollars, redirected every single paycheck into index funds and dividend stocks. Not hundreds, not thousands. Just whatever he could spare after the essentials were covered. He never missed a contribution, not once. The numbers on his portfolio screen barely moved at first. 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. Then something shifted. The growth that once crawled began to accelerate. Each dollar he had invested was now earning its own returns. And those returns were earning returns of their own. This is compound interest, silent, patient, unstoppable. Not magic, just mathematics given enough time. The seasons begin to turn, one after another, in long, sweeping, cinematic sequences. Summer heat shimmers off city pavement. Leaves catch fire in autumn gold. Snow blankets rooftops in silence. Then spring returns, soft and unhurried. Each cycle represents another year of quiet, unbroken commitment. The janitor ages gently through it all, but his routine remains untouched by time. The same morning walk, the same steady work, and each evening the same simple ritual, sitting before a modest laptop, reviewing his portfolio with calm, unhurried eyes. The numbers climb slowly, steadily, without drama or fanfare. There are no celebrations, no milestones marked with noise, just growth compounding silently in the background of an ordinary life. Because patience, the voiceover reminds us, is perhaps the most underrated virtue in all of personal finance. Not intelligence, not income. Patience. But while discipline was quietly compounding in the background, something else was growing louder in the world outside. Aerial shots reveal a culture drunk on consumption. Luxury car dealerships packed on weekends, high-end malls flooded with people chasing the next purchase, expensive restaurants, resort vacations, designer everything. And behind it all, credit card statements climbing higher every month, loan documents signed without hesitation, stressed faces hidden behind closed doors, wondering how the numbers stopped making sense. People were spending everything they earned and then borrowing to spend more. The lifestyle looked extraordinary from the outside, but inside it was fragile, built on borrowed time and borrowed money. The voiceover settles into a quiet but piercing question. When you spend every dollar, the moment it arrives, what exactly are you building? A life that looks wealthy or a foundation that actually is? Then the storm arrived. Markets collapsed overnight. Red graphs plummeted across every screen. News anchors delivered headlines no one wanted to hear. Economic collapse, financial crisis, generational losses. Investors sat frozen in disbelief, watching decades of savings evaporate in real time. The fear was everywhere, and it was completely understandable. People panic sold their portfolios, withdrew their savings, and made decisions driven entirely by terror rather than logic. Retirement accounts were emptied, investment apps were deleted. The emotional weight of watching your money disappear is something no chart can fully capture. It breaks people. It changes people. And in that moment, nearly everyone ran. They ran from the very market that had been quietly building their future. They ran exactly when history would later prove they should have stood completely still and held their ground with everything they had. While the world unravels in fear, we return to the janitor. He sits alone at his kitchen table, the room quiet, the city outside still trembling. His portfolio is open on the screen before him. The numbers have dropped significantly. Weeks of gains gone. Years of growth wounded. He stares at it. He does not flinch. He does not reach for the phone to call a broker in panic. He simply pauses. He breathes. One slow, deliberate breath. Then, with the calm of someone who has prepared for exactly this moment, he opens his investment account and makes another contribution. He does not sell, he buys more. Slow motion captures his hand moving across the keyboard. This single quiet action, invisible to the world, is the defining moment that separates those who actually build wealth from those who only ever dream about it. Slowly, the markets began to breathe again. Graphs that once plummeted started climbing steadily, then powerfully, surpassing the very highs that once seemed permanent. For most investors, recovery meant relief. For the janitor, it meant acceleration, because while others had fled in fear, he had kept buying. Every contribution made during the crash now multiplied with extraordinary force. The compounding effect, already working quietly for decades, shifted into something almost breathtaking. Numbers doubled. Portfolio value surged. Wealth that had been building in silence now grew with undeniable momentum. This is the truth most people never experience, that market crashes are not disasters for disciplined investors. They are discounts. They are opportunities wrapped in fear. Buying when others are selling is one of the greatest wealth-building strategies ever known, yet most people miss it completely, paralyzed by panic rather than guided by patience. He is in his late 60s now. The alarm still reads 4:47 in the morning. The uniform still goes on the same way. The mop still moves across the same marble floors. Nothing about his routine has changed, and yet everything about him is different. The camera finds him in close-up. The lines carved into his face tell decades of quiet mornings. His hands, worn and steady, move with the same calm they always have. But his eyes carry something the people rushing past him will never notice. There is no restlessness in him, no anxiety about tomorrow, no regret about yesterday, just a deep, settled peace that only comes from one thing: knowing exactly who you are and why you lived the way you did. This man carries a secret, and the world around him cannot see it. The janitor sits across from a financial advisor inside a modest local bank. The room is quiet, unremarkable, ordinary. The advisor pulls up the portfolio summary on his screen, adjusting his glasses as the numbers load. Then he stops. His expression shifts. The camera slowly pans toward the screen, revealing a portfolio worth over $1 million, built entirely on a janitor's salary across decades of unwavering discipline. Not inherited, not lucky, earned through patience, consistency, and extraordinary financial wisdom. The advisor looks up, visibly moved, searching for words that do not come easily. The janitor simply nods. There is no champagne, no applause, no dramatic celebration, just a quiet, dignified confirmation. A man who chose discipline over desire every single day for decades, sitting calmly in the truth of what that choice had built. Silence says everything. There are no trophies on his walls, no certificates framed in gold, just a worn journal filled with years of quiet thinking. He writes every morning, not goals, not dreams, truths. Live below your means, not because you have to, because you choose to. He reads books on investing the way others read scripture, slowly, carefully, returning to the same pages until the lessons become instinct. Sitting by his window as golden light pours in, he speaks without urgency. He says he stopped caring what people thought somewhere around year 5. That was when the real growth began, not in his portfolio, in himself. Time, he says, is the one asset nobody can sell you and nobody can take away. It was always available to everyone. Most people simply never chose to use it. And then there were the others. The executive who drove that gleaming luxury car to work every morning, the one who never acknowledged the janitor in the hallway, is now quietly negotiating with debt collectors. The colleague who posted vacation photos every single year, living what looked like a perfect life, is still working well past retirement age, not by choice, but by necessity. The neighbor who bought the impressive house in the prestigious neighborhood is now underwater on a mortgage that slowly consumed everything. These are not stories of failure in character. These are stories of a system that rewards the appearance of wealth while punishing those who confuse looking rich with actually being rich. Society celebrates the image. It rarely asks what lies beneath it. The janitor never needed anyone to believe he was wealthy. He simply was. The day finally comes. The janitor announces his retirement, and the building that once swallowed him whole now stands as a witness to his quiet victory. His final morning unfolds in slow motion. One last walk through the pre-dawn streets, one last badge in at the side entrance, one last mop across those gleaming marble floors. His co-workers gather, some struggling to hold back tears. He does not cry. He simply smiles, warm, certain, and completely at peace. He walks out through the front doors, something he never did before, straight into the morning sunlight. Aerial shots follow him stepping into the open city. No uniform, no schedule, no obligation. The voiceover settles over the moment. Retirement is not about age or exhaustion. It is about choice. He did not leave because he had to. He left because he was finally completely free. Now his mornings belong entirely to him. No alarm, no uniform, no marble floors waiting to be cleaned. Just the gentle warmth of coffee on a quiet porch as golden light spills across the neighborhood. He walks through the park without hurrying. He reads by the window until afternoon fades. He visits family, travels simply, and moves through each day at his own pace. Nothing about his life is extravagant. Everything about it is free, and that distinction matters more than most people ever realize. Financial performance is about impressing others with numbers. Financial freedom is about answering to no one with your time. He never chased the bigger salary or the fancier title. He chased something far more valuable, complete ownership of every single hour he lived. That more than any portfolio figure is what true wealth has always looked like. And here it is, every early morning, every empty street, every quiet hour spent working while the world slept, every envelope carefully divided, every contribution made without hesitation, every moment he held steady when others ran. Every season that passed, while the numbers grew slowly, then powerfully, then beyond anything most people dare to imagine. Watch it all again, because this is what wealth actually looks like. Not a windfall, not a salary, not luck. A series of choices made consistently across decades of ordinary days. The milestones were never celebrated loudly. They were simply reached, acknowledged, and surpassed. This man never earned what society calls impressive, but he built what most people only dream about. Wealth is not about income. It never was. It is about choices, and that truth belongs to everyone at every income level, without exception. And here he is now, sitting on a park bench as the sun rises over the same city he once walked through alone at 4:47 in the morning. The streets that were silent and dark back then are now filling with light, with movement, with life. He watches it all with a quiet smile. The camera slowly pulls back, rising above him, the city stretching endlessly beneath. Then black, because the most powerful investment you will ever make is not in a stock, not in a property, not in a business. It is in time, in patience, in the daily choice to stay the course when everything around you says stop. This janitor never earned a fortune. He simply never stopped planting seeds, and one morning, without fanfare, he woke up free.